Hello guys, subscribe to this YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you'll never miss a video of Sankalp IAS.
The session is regarding my strategy, my preparation strategy. So मैं कुछ इस तरीके से सेशन को लेने वाला हूँ कि अपनी जर्नी के साथ साथ अपनी प्रिपरेशन जर्नी के साथ साथ मैं ये चीजें भी शेयर करूंगा कि एक नए एस्पिरेंट्स के लिए प्रिपरेशन स्ट्रेटेजी क्या होनी चाहिए सो दैट ही कैन क्लियर दिस एग्जाम वेरी स्मूथली। उसका प्रिपरेशन जो फेज है वो बड़ा स्मूथ रहे। तो इन चीजों को लेकर भी आज हम डिस्कशन करने वाले हैं इससे। और मैं आशा करता हूं कि जितने भी यहाँ पर एस्पिरेंट्स हैं हमारे साथ वो सब लगभग नए एस्पिरेंट होंगे जिन्होंने अभी अपनी प्रिपरेशन को स्टार्ट ही किया होगा। तो मैं उसी वे में अपने पूरे सेशन को आज रखने वाला हूँ। In this session, what we are going to discuss is that what should be a correct preparation strategy so that we can clear this exam very smoothly, and what are certain do's and don'ts. That means what things should be done and what things should be avoided during the preparation strategy. This civil service exam, its preparation is a continuous phase. Sometimes it happens that we get cleared in the very first attempt, but sometimes it also happens that it takes 2, 3, or sometimes more attempts to clear this examination. And during this whole preparation journey, various questions comes to aspirant's mind, and these questions can be like, how many hours do we need to study in order to get good marks in the examination? How should we have to manage our time so that we can give adequate focus on our studies as well as other things also. There are certain questions related to which source books we need to follow and what are the materials that we need to follow during the preparation of examination, which newspaper we need to be studied. Is it required to study 2 newspapers or one is sufficient, Hindu or Indian Express? A dilemma may be there in these kind of questions. Or should we prepare notes while studying, or it can be done without notes making? Then what should be our optional subject? How to choose our optional subject? Should we go for test series, 1 test series, 2 test series? And should we first complete preparation for prelims and then go for mains? Or we should do a combined preparation strategy or integrated preparation strategy? These are various doubts that comes in the mind of an aspirant while preparing for the civil service exam. So in this session, along with telling you certain points about my preparation strategy, my preparation journey, I will try to give emphasis on these questions. Or if there are certain specific questions, so I think you can ask those questions in the meanwhile so that I can address those questions also. So starting with the strategy of this examination. So for all the new aspirants who have just entered in the preparation phase, what should be the first thing that we need to do to streamline our preparation? So according to me, the very first thing that each aspirant is required is referring to syllabus and previous year question paper. Syllabus is one such part that many of the aspirants do not refer. But we think that syllabus constitutes of certain broad subjects like history, economy, geography, polity, science and tech, environment, and so on, and along with that current affair related portion. But syllabus of this exam is not limited to these subjects only. They are just broad indicators, they are just broad subjects. But what we have to study in these subjects, that can be gauged from the syllabus that is being provided by the UPSC. Apart from that, what extra subjects, what extra topic do we need to prepare that are also mentioned in the UPSC syllabus? And if we are not continuously referring to that syllabus, then there will be various doubts in our mind. Somebody will say that everything under the sun can be asked in the UPSC examination. Somebody will say that it is like an unpredictable exam, anything can be asked. But believe me, it is not the case. UPSC generally follows a well-determined pattern of asking questions, and questions are most of the questions are from the syllabus. If we refer to the UPSC website, then detailed syllabus for prelims as well as mains is given. And even in mains, if we see GS1, GS2, GS3, and GS4, in every subject, UPSC has given, I think, 1 page or 1.5 page syllabus in which 15 to 20 pointer subjects are notified in each of the GS papers. For example, let's suppose we are taking GS1 paper. Then broadly, GS1 paper consists of history and geography. But what things do we need to study in history, and what are the topics that we need to emphasize in the geography that can be guessed from the syllabus? For example, say art and culture, ancient and medieval history. If we look at the syllabus, then only one out of 15 or 20 pointers in the GS1 main syllabus, only one pointer is related with art and culture, ancient and medieval. And that is, I think, as I can recall, it is regarding art and artifacts of Indian society in ancient and medieval times. So instead of focusing much on ancient history and medieval history, if we are focusing just on art and architecture, art and culture of these two periods, then that will be sufficient. Similarly, for every subject like Indian society, there are 5 pointers that are given in GS paper 1 as far as Indian society is concerned. And if we are giving proper emphasis on those 5 pointers, then I think question can be addressed. Otherwise, if we are not giving emphasis on those points and just we know that okay, Indian society is a part of syllabus, then our preparation will be very hodgepodge. We end up in reading 3 or 4 different books of Indian society, but they may not be relevant to our preparation to our exam. So this was all about syllabus, that before preparing anything, the first part that we need to do is refer to your syllabus 3 to 4 times. Definitely, after reading syllabus 3 to 4 times, you are not going to learn every part of that syllabus, but yes, you will get a broad overview that okay, these are the things that I have to study. And after that, whenever we are studying any of the subjects, say geography or say economy, then each time when we are studying that subject, we should have a snapshot of syllabus with them so that we can match whatever we are studying, whether it is required as per the exam or not. And second, most important thing is that referring previous year questions of both pre and main. It will help us a lot in identifying what kind of questions are being asked by the UPSC in the previous year. Definitely pattern can change, pattern of exam can change, and types of questions that UPSC is asking that can change. But analyzing the previous year papers, 4 to 5 year paper is 4 to 5 year 4 to 5 previous year papers are sufficient. If we are analyzing prelims as well as mains questions, then we can get to know that okay, these kind of questions can be asked. For example, let's say we are studying geography. When I was studying geography, and especially I remember that when I was referring to chapters called rivers, then I have referred to all the rivers, what are its tributaries. Okay, in northeastern India, Brahmaputra river is flowing, and these are 6 to 7 tributaries of this. Then when I refer to a previous year paper, then I got a new concept in the previous year paper, that was that which of the following is left bank tributary of river Brahmaputra. I have completed that river chapter. I know, okay, these 7 to 8 rivers are the main tributaries of river Brahmaputra. But I was not aware with the concept of left bank tributary or right bank tributary. I was not aware that how to demarcate that this particular river is a left bank tributary of the main river and this is the right bank tributary. So by analyzing the previous year questions, we can gauge, okay, we have to study this much also, that just referring to river and its tributary is not sufficient. We also have to understand, okay, this is the left bank tributary, this is the right bank tributary. Similarly, many more questions can be gauged from the previous year questions of prelims and mains, that okay, this is required. If we are referring to this particular topic, then this all is required and nothing more is expected from us. So in this way, our preparation can be much more streamlined. That is, we can say in less time, we can gather more knowledge, and knowledge that is relevant to the examination point. So before starting a preparation, just look at some previous year question papers, that what kind of question are being asked in prelims and mains, and just refer the UPSC syllabus. This will help you a lot in all your preparation journey. Then second most important point is regarding optionals. Most of us must be having doubts that which optional should we choose? What should be the criteria to choose an optional subject? Many times it has been seen that after not getting success in first or second attempts, generally aspirants try to change their optional in third or fourth attempt. This may be fine, okay, if we are not getting success with a particular optional, or we are getting less than 250 marks continuously in 2 or 3 attempts in that particular optional, then fine, we have no other option but to change optional. But the main thing is that if we can consciously and judiciously choose our optional at the very first point, then this phase will not arrive at all in our preparation. An optional plays a huge role. Why optional plays a huge role in getting success in this examination? The reason is that optional constitute of 2 papers of 250 marks each. That means total 500 marks are there for optional, and for GS subjects there are 5 papers including essay and mains, and they constitute 1250 marks. By seeing this analogy, we can say, okay, 1250 marks are for GS papers and 500 marks are for optional papers. So GS constitutes more weight, but it is not so. If we refer the past year marks, then in a GS paper of 250 marks, average marks are 100, and most of the selected candidates are getting around 110 marks. If we are getting 110 plus marks in a GS paper, that means we are scoring very high in that subject. Suppose if I am getting 115 marks in say ethics paper, that means my score in ethics is well above average. But that is not the case with optional. Even 150 marks in optional are considered as an average mark. Like if we are getting 140 to 150, somewhere around 140 to 150 in an optional paper, that means in combined in 2 optional papers, we are getting around 280 to 300 marks. They are just good marks or just above average. Because if we see highest marks in optional, then aspirants are getting around 350 plus in optional. So to get your name in the list and even getting good rank, optional is a deciding factor. So if we have to score 300 plus or 310 plus in optional, then we must choose optional very judiciously. So the question arises, how should we choose our optional paper? So I will give you certain pointers that, okay, these 3, 4 or 5 are the pointers on the basis of which we can gauge how to choose different options. As far as my case was concerned, I had cleared engineering service exam in the year 2017 with All India rank 1. So I was having interest as well as good command on electrical engineering optional. So that's why I choose electrical engineering as an optional in my civil service examination. But still, before choosing electrical engineering as an optional, I have made list of 2 and 3 other optionals also. And then out of those 3 or 4 optionals, I have decided on the basis of certain criteria that okay, electrical engineering is more suitable for me. So what can be those criteria? What can be those priority factors on the basis of which we can decide optional subject? So I think 5 or 6 priority areas can be there. 5 or 6 criteria can be there to choose a optional subject. One criteria is interest. Second is previous knowledge or command over that subject. Third is our graduation subject, which subject we have opted for in our graduation. Fourth is source material, test series, and other material that is available in the market as far as that optional subject is concerned. And fifth is syllabus of that optional, whether that optional has a vast syllabus or that has a limited syllabus. So these are the 5 points that I have made on the basis of which you can choose your optional subject. Before choosing optional subject, first criteria that we must give highest priority is our interest. Which subject will suits us depends on what are our interests. So before choosing your optional, I recommend that first give 2 to 3 months time for reading all the subjects of GS. At least you must have a basic knowledge of all the GS related subjects like geography, polity, history, economy, environment, science and tech, and so on and so forth. A basic knowledge is required. And after reading these subjects for 2 or 3 months, we can make a view that okay, these are the 3 subjects that I like. Like I like geography, history, and polity, but I do not like much economy, science and tech, and environment. So we can make a well-informed decision after reading for 2 to 3 months, after studying for 2 to 3 months. Okay, these subjects are those subjects where my interest lies, and in these particular 3 or 4 subjects, I do not like these subjects much. After uh, uh, prioritizing on the basis of interest, second point is regarding what is your graduation subject. Have you graduated in engineering, or you have graduated in any arts based subject, or you have graduated in economics, or you have graduated in medical field, and whether you can take subject of graduation as a optional or not. This is also very much important because the subject of your graduation, say my case, electrical engineering or electronics engineering, I have studied it for continuously 4 years. So definitely I will be having an edge. I must have a command over these subjects. But sometimes it happens that we have just done our graduation, but that graduation subject that case, taking graduation subject as optional is not desired, is not recommendable. But if your graduation subject suits you, you like reading your graduation subject, as well as you have command over that subject, then you can definitely go for your graduation subject. So after choosing that, okay, fine, whether I'm going with my graduation subject as an optional or not, after choosing that, if you are going with the graduation subject, then it's fine, it's well and good. But if we are not going along with your graduation subject as an optional, then you can take first criteria that okay, which subject interests you more. And after making a list of 4 to 5 optional, then you can gauge, you can take a decision with other well-defined criteria. Like third criteria can be how much source material is available in the market for that particular subject. There are certain well-defined subjects for which you are not going to get any test series, you are not going to get much of the material in the market for those subjects, or you may not get previous year questions, previous year solved questions for particular subject. So that can be made a criteria if you are choosing a particular optional subject and much of or any test, if any test series is not available for that subject, source material is not available for that subject, then in that case it will be very difficult to to smoothly prepare for that subject. So that can be made a criteria. Then if suppose after that you are still in a dilemma, ki, okay, which subject should I choose in an optional, then syllabus can be a criteria. Certain subjects have very small syllabus like anthropology, sociology, philosophy, the public administration. These subjects have somewhat less syllabus as compared to other traditional subjects. Like history has very vast syllabus, has very bulky syllabus. PSIR also has a vast syllabus. Engineering optionals have a vast syllabus. As compared to these optionals, the optionals that I have mentioned to you, like Anthro, Socio, Philosophy, PubEd, they have a smaller syllabus. So that can also be a part of your prioritizing optional. So by giving a proper weightage to each of these criteria, at the end, you can come with a well-balanced decision that, okay, this should be my optional subject. So this is my advice to all of the aspirants that in the initial 4 to 5 months, you must be having a judicious view about your optional that, okay, this should be my optional, and then go with that optional only. So decide it before February, before filling, because I think in the month of February, you are going to fill the registration form for the civil service exam. So before filling your registration form for the civil service exam, you must be ready what should be your optional. The third important topic that I am going to discuss with you is about the source material. For GS subjects, variety of source material is available in the market. We can see for each and every subject, hundreds of books are available, hundreds of printed notes are available, hundreds of online materials available. And we all are human. We are not capable of reading each and every source for every particular subject. So now here question arises, which source material should I choose? Again here, syllabus will play a very important role. We have to choose source material according to the syllabus. So certain points can be kept in mind while choosing a source material. Like the first point is that particular source material should cover the syllabus comprehensively. Okay, that means that should be covering pre plus main syllabus comprehensively. For example, let's talk about modern history. In prelims, around 20 or 15 questions are asked from modern history. And also in mains paper GS1, 3 to 4 questions are asked from the subject modern history. And various books of modern history are available in market. Bipin Chandra is there, Spectrum by Rajiv Iyer is there. Apart from that, various printed notes can be seen in the market. Various online material are also available for these for history. So from where should we start as far as source material is concerned? If you are just new entrant to the civil service exam, then my advice is first you should start with NCERT. We can start with NCERTs for each subject. They will give us a broad overview of each and every subject. NCERTs are not going to cover your syllabus comprehensively, but yes, a broad overview of different subjects can be gauged. Okay, these are all things that we need to refer in this subject, and we can get a brief knowledge about each and every subject from the NCERT. Now, as far as NCERTs are concerned, 2 questions are asked, like which NCERT should be covered, old or new. And second thing is that which class, from 6 to 12 or from 6 to 10 or only 11, 12. So which class textbooks, which class NCERT textbooks are sufficient? So as far as history and geography, these two subjects are concerned, I think class 6 to class 12, we need to cover NCERT from class 6 to class 12 in history and geography. These are two important subjects. In history, NCERT will cover ancient, medieval, modern, post-independence, world history, art and culture, and Indian society. These all things will be covered in class 6 to class 12 NCERT. As far as geography is covered, Indian geography, world geography, human geography, physical geography, economic geography, plus environment and disaster management. These all 7 to 8 subjects will be covered from class 6 to class 12 NCERT. So in the initial first month of your preparation, I recommend that we should devote more time for reading NCERT. Apart from these two subjects, as far as economy and polity is concerned, I think class 11th and class 12th, these two NCERT will suffice, because anyway we have to read other books also for these two subjects. As far as science and tech is concerned, I think sir have already told, Gorakh Patil sir must have told about what should you refer regarding science and tech is concerned. But I think if you are from engineering background, then NCERT may not be required for you people. But if you are from some humanities background or some arts background or say economics background, then in that case you can refer class 9th and 10th science textbook, science NCERT textbook. In this, basics of physics, chemistry, and biology will be covered. And for engineers, you can refer just biology portion of class 9th and class 10th NCERT. After reading NCERT, we must make a practice of making one reference book as a standard book, as a base book for a particular subject, or one printed notes. We must not gather more and more material. Rather than gathering more and more material, our source should be limited. Less is more. जितना हम कम material अपना रखेंगे, that will be more sufficient. The best strategy is, for each and every subject, we must have one standard book as a reference material that is covering comprehensively each and every part of pre as well as main syllabus, and just revising that particular book 3 or 4 times, because revision is very much important in this exam. It will happen, suppose you have read economy in this particular month and you have completed your economy, and after that, if you leave that economy subject for 3 or 4 months, then in the 5th month you will see that you have just remembered only 10 or 20% of what you have studied 4 months before. So in that case, revision must be a continuous strategy while preparing for this exam. After reading a book, after reading a reference book or any reference material that you have chosen for a particular subject, you must revise that material continuously. So if suppose in a day we are giving 7 or 8 hours for study, then out of that at least 3 hours must be given for revision phase, and in 4 to 5 hours can be given for studying new subjects. So revision is very much required of each and every subject. As far as some basic subjects are concerned, like history, polity, economy, geography, environment, we can refer a base material, a base book for these subjects. We need to cover these subjects comprehensively. But there are certain other subjects like internal security, like world history, like international relations, like Indian society, governance. For these subjects, as per the syllabus that is mentioned in UPSC, we can take some handwritten notes or some small material we can search online that can cover these subjects. Like internal security is there, So around 50 to 100 page book or 50 to 100 page material is sufficient for that particular subject. We need not to go for a comprehensive book of 400 or 500 pages for this subject. So for these ancillary subjects, we must be having a material. Some subject may require 20 to 30 page material. Some subject may require 50 to 100 page material. So for all these ancillary subjects, we must be having material. We must be having very small and crisp, short and crisp material for those ancillary subjects. And it must be seen that while our preparation, we must be having an integrated preparation strategy for both pre as well as main. Sometimes it happens that we give more focus. Sometimes it happens that we give more focus to prelims. And what happens after clearing prelims, we are just having left with around 3 or 3.5 months. This time we have 3 months time after prelims, and next year in 2021 we are just having around 2.5 months times after prelims. So in this short time span, it is not possible to complete the syllabus of mains comprehensively. So it is a good practice that while studying, we must be having an integrated approach. We must be having an integrated study of prelims as well as mains. What we can do, we can make a list of those subjects that are coming only in mains, not in prelims. There are certain subjects like world history, internal security, governance, ethics. These subjects comes only in mains. They are not mentioned in the syllabus of prelims. So what we can do, first we can cover those subjects that are asked in both prelims and mains. So initial 6 to 7 months can be given for those subjects, and after completing those subjects, now after that they can be completed by the month of December or January, or after that 1 or 2 months time frame can be given for those subjects that are coming exclusively in the main. Like suppose if we are preparing for 2021 exam, prelims is on 27 June. So how can we balance our preparation in these 10 months? So till January, we can complete those subjects which are coming which are coming in both pre as well as mains. And month of February and March can be given to those subjects which are coming exclusively in mains, like ethics, international relations, or internal security, world history. So it's a good practice to complete all the subjects before prelims, so that after mains after prelims we are not having additional burden. That okay, we have to suppose after prelims it happens that we have not read anything about ethics. So it will be very difficult because we have to do our optional, we have to do our GS paper also, and apart from that, if one subject is there that we have not referred at all previously, then it will be very difficult to manage that. So the best strategy, best policy is that we must be having an integrated approach towards our preparation for prelims as well as main. Similar thing is for optional. It's a good strategy to complete your optional and revise it once or twice before completing your prelims exam. Like till the month of March, you must have decided your optional. Okay, this is my optional. You must have completed syllabus of that optional once, and at least revise that optional once before the period of March. Because anyway, month of April and June, you must be focusing entirely on prelims. So before March, you must have completed all those subjects that are coming exclusively in mains plus your optional subjects, so that after prelims you must not end up in having a huge burden of these additional subjects, of reading these additional subjects. So this was all about the traditional subjects, the static portion of our preparation. After that, one important pillar of this examination is current affairs, and this is very important. How to manage with current affairs? We have a vast current affair, and current affair pertains to polity domain, pertains to economic domain, pertains to international relations domain, pertains to business affairs domain also. So how to deal with that current affairs? Do we need to read newspaper? Do we need to refer only current affair related magazines? Or what should be our strategy as far as current affairs is concerned? So as far as current affairs is concerned, we can divide preparation of current affairs in two phases. One is reading newspaper, and second is reading one monthly compilated magazine. So now, newspaper, doubts are there whether we should read the Hindu or Indian Express. This is for those aspirants who are writing exam in English. For those who are writing exam in Hindi, they can choose one national level Hindi newspaper. As far as those who are writing exams in English, any of the newspaper, either the Hindu or Indian Express, you can go for any one of them, not both. Okay. And it's a good practice that you start your newspaper after 2 or 3 months of your preparation. In the initial 2 or 3 months, we can give more focus on our traditional subjects. In initial 2 or 3 months, we must give more emphasis on static subjects like history, geography, polity, economy, and so on and so forth. We must have completed, at least we must have partly completed the syllabus of these subjects in the initial 2 to 3 months. After that, we should switch over to the newspaper. If any particular aspirant has a newspaper reading as a hobby, or he's reading newspaper well before preparing this exam, then he can continue that. No need to leave the newspaper. But if newspaper reading is not in your habit, is not in your daily habit, then in that case, you can start newspaper reading after 2 or 3 months of your preparation. Why I'm saying so that you should have a gap of this 2 or 3 months? Reason is that newspaper reading is a very complex task. It's not easy. Suppose we are reading the Hindu. It will definitely happen with all of you that after reading one editorial, you must be getting only 10, 20 or 30% of that editorial, not more than that. This is so because we are not well versed with the basic concepts of subjects like economy, with the basic concepts of subjects like international relations. We are not well aware with the history of periods say 1900 to 2000. So since we are not well aware with these subjects, it will be difficult to understand newspaper completely. And then problem starts. We are saying that it ends up 2 hours or more to read a newspaper comprehensively. Definitely, it will going to take more hours to read newspaper completely. Why? Because we do not have complete understanding or partial understanding of the subject of some basic subjects like history, geography, economy, polity, etc., etc. So after having a glimpse, after having a basic understanding of these subjects, one is saying your audio is mute or not. Is my audio clear? Can anyone tell me my audio is clear to you or not? Because it's not muted from here.
Yes, sir, it's
Yes.
clear.
Clear.
It's clear. It's
Okay.
clear.
Okay. One participant has said that my audio is not clear. That's why I have asked the question. So fine. So where was I? I was on the topic newspaper. So after 2 or 3 months of having a broad knowledge of different subjects, then we can go with the newspaper. After this, what will you see? That will take less time to read newspaper. And definitely when you are going to start newspaper, say you are starting newspaper in the month of November. In initial 1 or 2 months, it's going to take more time. it may take 1.5 hours to read one day newspaper. No problem. Don't panic. After reading continuously for 1 or 1.5 months, after that, you are definitely be on track. You will be taking not more than 45 minutes to read a newspaper, and it's sufficient time. 45 minutes is sufficient time to complete a newspaper, because you are not going to read each and everything in newspaper. Certain pages, like if I talk about especially the Hindu, then the pages of states, north, west, east, south, they do not have much uh, relevant content as far as civil service exam is concerned, so we can skip those pages. The important pages in the newspaper are the first pages where polity related news are concerned, and even in those national page, the page 8, 9, 10, 11, these are national pages where news related to Indian polity are given. Even in those pages, we can avoid political party related news, like news related to BJP, Congress, AAP. We can avoid those news. They are not relevant to our syllabus. But we need to refer only those news which are dealing with any policy initiatives of the government, any schemes of the government, or news related to any constitutional body, like election commission is saying something, or RBI is saying something, or say CBI is saying something. So any constitutional or statutory body, if it is saying something, Supreme Court is saying something, then that news becomes important. Similarly, business and international affairs, business and world, these two pages are important. Even in those pages, in international relation pages, only that news which have a direct relation with India, or any news that may have an impact on India, that can be referred. Other news can be avoided. And at last, editorial is important. There are generally 4 to 5 editorial in a newspaper. In Hindu, if we talk about 6 and 7 page number, they are dedicated for editorial, and daily around 5 or 6 editorial are coming in the newspaper. So out of that 5 or 6, around 2 or 3 are important. Sometimes it may happen that none of the editorial is relevant as far as civil service is concerned, or sometimes it may happen that 4 or 5 editorials are relevant for us. On an average basis, daily 1 or 2 editorial are important, so we can read that. So while reading newspaper, we must be aware what to read and what not to read. So after reading basic books, after reading syllabus for 2 or 3 months, we will be well versed in that okay, what is required from exam point of view in the newspaper and what is not required. So 45 minutes time or 1 hour time, 45 minutes to 1 hour is sufficient time. We should not give more time to the newspaper. Then second doubt, sometime it arises, that whether should we make notes of newspaper or not. I think at the starting phase of our preparation, it is not required to make notes out of newspaper, because making notes out of newspaper will be very difficult. It's a complex process. It is going to take much of your time, and anyway, you are you should have to read that compilation, monthly compilation of current affairs. You are definitely going to read that. So here, in those compilations, you are definitely getting relevant news in notes form. So I think it's not required at the starting stage of your preparation to make notes. Yes, in the end, if you like, you can make certain pointers from the editorial if it is required at the main stage, because it will help in the mains, in the answer writing. You can write some important points if they are given in editorials in just point format. Like for one editorial, sorry, but this Alok Kumar is again saying your audio voice is not clear to me. So I think
No, it's clear. It's clear. It's clear.
It's
No
clear
issue.
now. Okay, it's problem with only one aspirant. You can check your internet connection, I think. So fine. So in one editorial, just jot down 2 or 3 points if they are at all required. You can make a separate copy for that. And if at all, if one editorial is giving some very good points, then you can just jot down those points, 2 or 3 points, not more than that. And apart from that, regarding current affair magazine, just one monthly magazine is sufficient. Don't go for more than one magazine. Various current affair magazine are available in the market. Huge material. They are giving huge online and offline material is available. They are giving you daily compilation also. Certain apps are there, like Civil's Daily app is there, that is giving daily compilation also. Certain apps are giving weekly compilation. Certain websites are giving monthly compilation. So don't go with all of them. Just choose one trusted source, and from that one trusted source. Sorry. Hello. Hello. Can
मयंक जी अनम्यूट, आपको अनम्यूट करो, मैंने म्यूट किया.
Okay, fine. I have unmuted myself. So you can just refer one monthly compilation. Don't go for daily current affair or weekly current affair based compilation. I think they hold much less relevance for you. Just go for one monthly current affair based compilation and read that and revise that. Revising current affair is also very, very important. So you can manage in such a way that in 1 month you are covering previous month's current affair based compilation, and you are revising previous 2 months current affair magazine also. This should be your time frame for one particular month of your preparation. So for every month, one current affair based magazine should be read and 2 previous magazines should be revised, so that before prelims you have revised, you must have revised all the magazines at least twice. So this is a best practice. Then this was all about source material, that what you need to study and what you should avoid to refer. Then after that, one important aspect in this preparation phase is regarding how to manage our time. We all are having 24 hours, and if we are able to optimally manage our time and efficiently manage our time, then it will be very beneficial for us. As far as time management is concerned, the first important thing is consistency. We must be consistent in our studies. It may happen that for 2 or 3 days we are not able to focus more on study, then it's fine. But it must not happen that for entire duration, for entire 15 days or entire 1 month, we have just taken a halt from our studies, and then we are coming back after 1 month. This is not desired. We must be having consistency. That means in 30 days in a month, we must be utilizing 22 to 23 days efficiently. This is what consistency says. Now, after that, how much time daily do we need or do we give for our studies? Do we require 12 hours daily study, or we require 15 hours daily study, or 8 hours are sufficient? This is a question that every aspirant has in his mind before starting his preparation. So I think instead of counting time in hours, we should count it in on the basis of content, like not quantitatively but qualitatively. It may happen that we are studying for 12 hours, but we are not studying efficiently in those 12 hours. So we may compare two aspirants, say A and B. One is studying 8 hours and one is studying 12 hours. But output of aspirant A is more. It may happen. It is because he is utilizing his 8 hours more efficiently as compared to aspirant B, who is utilizing his 12 hours but less efficiently. So rather than counting hours of study, rather than counting daily hours of study, it's good practice to make small targets, small daily targets. Like we can make daily, like suppose for tomorrow, we can make a target. Okay, for tomorrow, we are going to read first 2 chapters of geography and 1 chapter of history. This is our target, and that target needs to be based on the basis of our capability. Okay, in one particular day, our ability is that we can read 40 pages efficiently. Accordingly, we can make our targets. So this will be very much beneficial for us. Now, our job for that day is to complete our target in whatever time possible. If we are able to complete that target in 5 hours, then it's well and good. Remaining hours are our leisure hours. We can do whatever we want. But if we are not able to complete our target in 7 hours also, then we need to study for 1 more hour. So in this way, you may end up having a flexible time schedule. Like you are not deciding your time frame in hours. On one day, it may possible that you are studying 5 hours. On another day, it may possible that you are studying 8 to 9 hours. So flexibility will be provided if flexibility will be available to you if you are deciding your daily small targets on the basis of content that you are going to study on that particular day. And that daily target should be made on the basis of a broad yearly and monthly target, like how to manage your total time of preparation. So let's say you are preparing for 2021 examination. So you have total 10 months. So you must have formed a broad overview or broad plan of your study, that okay, in these 10 months we have to complete these 15 subjects, and you must make a timeline. In the month of August, September and October, I will complete these 3 subjects. In later 3 months, we will complete these 3 subjects. These months will be given for revision. This much time is given for revision. These 2 months I am dedicating for my optional. So like this, a brief timeline we can prepare in our mind, or we can prepare a chart for that. Okay, these months are designated or demarcated for these particular subjects. After that, you can make your monthly target. Okay, in this month, I am going to complete these 2 subjects, and accordingly, you can make your daily target, so that your daily target, monthly target, and yearly target are in sync. And in this way, you are going to complete your preparation in a very smooth way. Otherwise, what is going to happen if you are not making your annual and monthly target? Then what will happen? Every day there will be a stress in your mind that, oh, this huge syllabus is left, how we are going to complete the syllabus. That kind of question will be there in your mind. So if we are going to make such targets, monthly, daily and annual, then it will smoothen your preparation. The second thing is utilizing your daily time. Suppose you are giving say average 7 hours of study, average 7 hours daily for study. Then how to utilize that time? Some time of the day your efficiency may be higher, and in other part of the day your efficiency may be lower. Suppose if I take my example, then in morning hours up to 1 or 2 in the morning, my efficiency was much higher as compared to evening hours. So when I used to study in the morning hours, my output was more, my efficiency was more, but in the evening hours I felt more lethargic, my output was less, even my efficiency was less. Suppose from morning 11 to 12 morning, if I was able to read 20 pages, then in evening hours I was only able to read 10 pages, and that too with less efficiency, with less output. So accordingly, you have to decide which patch of time, which patch of daily time you are more efficient, and on which patch of time you are less efficient. And what can be done? The time or that patch where your efficiency is higher, that time you can devote for studying new things, for studying new subjects. And the time where your efficiency is less, your output is less, you are feeling more lethargic, for those times you can devote to revision, because while revising, you have studied that particular portion previously. So understanding part, you must, if you are giving even less focus, then also you are able to complete that part. But if a particular part you are doing entirely new, you are doing entirely for the first time, for that particular part you require more concentration, more focus, more efficiency. So devoting best part of your day, devoting best time of your day for newer study will help you a lot. Otherwise, what will happen? Your concentration will be weaker in the lean time, and if you are doing new subjects in this lean time, then you will not be able to understand that particular part properly, as well as your efficiency will also be down. So this is all about time management. Then one doubt in the mind of aspirant is that, even in my mind it was like, when should we start answer writing practice? Should we write answers daily, or should we start it before prelims? Should we start it after prelims? Or what should be our preparation strategy? As far as my journey was concerned, frankly speaking, I started answer writing after prelims because I had very less time. I started my preparation in the month of October, and I had just 8 or 9 months for prelims. So I didn't get much time for practicing answers before prelims. But it's a good practice to start answer writing before prelims, because then you will be well versed in answer writing. So it will not be a huge burden to you after prelims examination to write more and more answers. Again, same like newspaper, before completing 2 or 3 months of your preparation, you can start your answer writing from the month of November or December. Don't rush to the answer writing from the very first day of your preparation. It's not required. First, cover a brief overview of each static subject and cover a bit of current affairs. After that, you must be having some content to write answer, because in writing answer you must be having content as well as interlinking, because it's not like in the paper of geography you are just writing for the parts of geography. You have to interlink it with other subjects also. For geography, you have to sometimes interlink it with environment. You have to interlink it with polity also. Sometimes you need to interlink it with economy. So before writing any answers, you must be well versed with the content. So in the initial 3 or 4 months, just prepare content, and after that you can start your answer writing practice. And if you are writing only one answer daily, then it will be sufficient. You need not to write 4 or 5 answers daily. Just write one answer. Daily one answer, that means in a month you are writing 25 to 30 answers. So if you are starting from the month of December and you are doing answer writing in December, January, February, March, okay, April and May, we are reserving these 2 months entirely for prelims. So in these 5 months, you must have answered 30 into 5, 150 questions. That is more than sufficient. So, and just devote 10 to 15 minutes for answer writing daily, 10 minutes for answer writing or 15 minutes for answer writing, and 10 or 15 minutes for just analyzing what you have written from the source. It is sufficient. Not more than this is required. As far as test series are concerned, it's a good practice to take one test series of prelims and mains. So now, what is the good time to start a test series? And both we will see as far prelims and mains. What is the good time to start a test series for prelims? Again, same here. After 2 or 3 months of your preparation, you can start a test series. A test series will consist of 2 parts or 2 kind of tests. One will be part syllabus test and one will be the full syllabus test. So accordingly, you can take one test series. Don't go for more than one test series. Don't rush for many more test series for prelims. it is not going to help you, because one particular test series will contain around 25 to 30 tests, and that is sufficient. You require only practice. You require to practice only 10 to 20, only 20 to 30 tests for prelims, not more than that. Just take a good test series and practice weekly one test for prelims, because every test series are designed in such a manner that you end up giving one test every week. And what should be the method of giving test series? Complete that subject for which you are going to give test, because in part syllabus test you must be having one in one test syllabus may be economy, in one test syllabus may be polity, in one test syllabus may be history and geography. So first complete that particular subject, and after that write a test series. Duration of test series is 2 hours. Duration of a test paper of prelims is 2 hours, but you must give around 4 to 5 hours for a test series. You have to complete that test paper in 2 hours, and after that 2 to 3 hours must be devoted for analyzing your test. What is the problem? Problem is here that aspirants generally do write a test, but they do not give any time for its analysis. They just pile up writing more and more and more tests, but not analyzing any of them. It's not required. It will be fine if you are writing only 15 tests in your preparation, but to analyze all of them, it is required. Before, if you are not analyzing, so you will not knowing what is the problem. Suppose in a test of 200 marks, you are getting only 70 marks, then you must analyze, okay, what was the problem? In which portion I was weak? Whether I am doing more silly mistakes, or whether problem is related to content. I do not have enough content. I do not know the basic concepts, or the problem is conceptual. My concepts are not clear for that particular subject, or my strategy is wrong. My strategy of doing test is wrong. You need to ascertain, you need to analyze after giving these tests that what was the reason of your failure in that particular test? What was the reason of not getting good marks in that particular test? Just analyze that reason and then work upon that reason. And then test yourself in your second test, that whatever shortcomings were there in the previous test, have you rectified in the second test or not? So in that way, very smoothly, you are going to complete that preparation stage. As far as mains test series are concerned, for mains, you can start a test series after completing your prelims examination, because anyway you are writing one answer daily. So even if you are not writing a test series before prelims, then it's fine, no problem. After prelims, you can give 1 or 2 test series depending on your requirement. Generally, one test series for mains contains 10 to 12 tests of GS papers and 4 to 5 essay papers. So if you are able to complete your test in a given time frame and you are getting good marks, then one test series is sufficient. But if problem is there that like you are not able to complete your test paper in the required 3-hour duration, or out of 20 given questions, you are only doing 15 odd questions, then in that case, you require more practicing, more answer writing practice, or you are not getting good marks. Out of 10 marks, you are just getting 2.5 or 3 marks in each and every question. That means somewhere or other, there is a problem in your answer writing style. That means you require one more test series. But not more than 2 test series are required for main stage as well. And again, in this part also, analyzing is very much important. After giving test series and getting your checked copy, you must analyze the comments written by the evaluator, that okay, in which portion you were weak. And again, in the similar way as you have done in your prelims, you need to analyze your mistakes and then rectify those mistakes in the next paper. So this was as far as test series is concerned. And the last part that I'm going to cover in this session is how to stay motivated in this duration. Definitely, this phase of this preparation is very complex. Sometimes it happens that we may end up in getting stress, we may end up in getting negative emotions during this preparation phase. So what may be the best way to stay motivated? One way is that do your preparation in a very planned and strategic manner. If we are doing it in a very planned manner, as I have told you earlier, that make an annual plan, monthly plan, and daily plan, then if you are doing it in a planned manner, then your preparation will be smooth and you may not end up getting stress, anxiety, and such things. And second thing is that if you devote certain time for physical activity, for yoga, meditation, or say walking, cycling, running, jogging, whatever you are doing, just devote some time, say either morning time or evening time. You can devote 1 hour time. If you are devoting for physical activity, then it will help you in staying motivated. It will help in reducing and eliminating negative stress and boosting positive emotions around you. So this was all from my side in this session. If you have any specific doubts, then you can ask now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayank. If you have the student, if you have any question, you can ask. You can ask.
Sir, I'm Pooja from Kerala. I just have a doubt. Like you told us to have a monthly completed magazine. Do you have any suggestions on which magazine we should follow? Like any set of magazines or something?
Are you following any particular magazine?
No. I'm just new and I'm a beginner. So
okay. There are monthly compilations like Vision IS is giving a monthly magazine. Even Sankalp is, I think, also giving. Sir, Sankalp is giving any magazine?
Yes. There is an editorial program which we are providing on a weekly basis. We provide the one booklet on weekly basis. Yeah.
On weekly basis. Okay. So you can refer that also, or other magazine like Vision IS is there. Next IS is also providing a monthly magazine. So you can refer any of them, but just refer one particular magazine, not more than one.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I'm Aditya Ashokun from Kerala.
Okay.
And I have decided to select the optional public administration.
Okay.
So how far this I took my degree in English language and literature, but I am not comfort in that subject. So I felt that public administration is somewhat easier for me. I don't know which subject I want to choose, but when I go through these optionals, I mainly I like history and public administration. So I am also confused. Still, I am getting confusing which optional I want to choose.
So you are confused in history and public, these two optionals, I think.
Yes, sir. But I know, but my degree subject is English literature. Yes, but I was not comfortable to take the subject.
Okay, fine. See, it's not always recommended that you took your graduation subject as optional. If you are not interested in this subject, if you are not comfortable in that subject, then it's very much fine. No problem in that. Do not take that as an optional. And as you have already said that you have decided two subjects, history and public administration, you can go with any one of them. Both subjects are good. The first important thing is that you must be having an interest in that subject, because as far as GS is concerned, suppose history is there. In GS, syllabus is very limited, but as far as optional is concerned, syllabus is very vast. You need to study much more in optional. So if your interest is not there, if you are not comfortable with that particular subject, then it will create a huge problem in the coming time. So if you have chosen these two subjects, you can take any of the two subjects. I can just tell you that history has a huge syllabus in optional, and it's a very vast syllabus. As far as public administration is there, it has somewhat lighter syllabus. So if your interest is equal in both these subjects, then you can go with PubEd in that case.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other question?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Sir, my name is Kiran from Kerala.
Okay.
I want to know that which optional subject is mostly get the repetition. I mean, the questions are repeating, except chemistry, physics, and maths.
Okay. See, I think it should not be a criteria which optional subject is getting more repetitive questions. One reason is that UPSC, as far as such patterns are concerned, is very unpredictable. It may happen that in last 4 years, UPSC has asked more repetitive questions, but in just this particular year, suppose you are giving 2021 exams, in that year, it has asked entirely new questions. Then you have made a selection on the basis of this fact that, okay, in this subjects, more repetitive questions are asked. But in the year of your examination, UPSC has not asked any repetitive question. Then in that case, you will be at a loss. So this must not be a criteria, I think.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, fine.
Excuse me, sir. I'm Pooja again, sir, from
Hi, Pooja.
Kerala. Sir, actually, I've completed Pharm D degree that is
Okay.
related to pharmacy. Do I have an option that I can choose regarding to pharmacy or medical?
I think medical science is an optional, but you need to see the syllabus of that optional first. Syllabus is available on the UPSC website. In the notification, you will get the syllabus of medical science, and just then match that what are the areas which are entirely new for you. If you are well aware with 60 to 70% of that syllabus, then you can go with that particular subject. But if syllabus is entirely different, like in pharmacy, you have read whatever things you have read that are not mentioned in the syllabus, and syllabus is entirely new for you, then you have to choose another optional. So as far as I know, medical science is a subject that can be related to this pharmacy related things, and other things you can check on the website. I'm not sure about.
So if I'm choosing like any other subject like history or polity, is it will it become convenient for me to study from starting?
Yes, it will be convenient. There will not be any problem. But again, you if suppose you are not taking subject of your graduation as your optional, then in that case, I have already given you certain criteria in this episode that there are certain criteria. First thing is that your interest should be there. If you have interest in that particular subject, then definitely you will be able to complete the syllabus of that particular subject. Because as far as GS are concerned, for many of the aspirants, entire GS syllabus is new, and definitely each of them is doing that syllabus, each of them is completing that syllabus. Similar is the case with optional. If you are not taking graduation subject, then first ascertain in which subject you have more interest, and after that list 3 or 4 subjects or 5 subjects in which you have interest. And after listing those 4 or 5 subjects, just then look for the syllabus which have less syllabus, which has more syllabus. Look for the source material available, which subject has more source material in the market, which subject has less source material in the market. And on the basis of that, you can make a well-informed decision.
Okay, sir.
Answered
Thank
your
you so
question,
much.
Pooja?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I'm Ajra again.
Yes, yes, please.
Sir,
Hello.
sir, I am Ajra again. And most of them advised me to read the competitive success review. How far
Sorry, competitive?
success review, CSR. The
I
max
haven't.
Yes,
max
competition.
competitive success review.
Okay.
How far is it is useful for us in the
I
case of
haven't read
SSC?
that competitive success review, and I even don't know this particular thing. So
Yes,
I cannot guide you on that particular part. What is this? Can you tell me? What is this
uh,
competitive success review?
this is a magazine, I think. Most of them
Okay.
advised me to read the success
Is it a
stories of
monthly magazine
businesses.
or annual magazine?
It's monthly. It's a
Monthly
monthly
magazine.
magazine. It's a monthly
It's a
magazine.
monthly magazine. So I think other monthly magazines are also available. Like Yojana is there, Kurukshetra is there. They are good magazines. All of these are good magazines. But the thing is that how much time do you have? Are you getting additional time to read all such magazines or not? Requirement is that one monthly current affair compilation. It is required. But see, suppose I take example of Yojana. We may not cover all Yojana, but I think as far as Yojana is concerned, this is the theme-based magazine. In 1 month magazine, you may get a theme of say Northeast. In 1 month magazine, you may see women empowerment. In 1 month, you may see technology. So, if you like a particular content, you like a particular theme, or if you are weak in suppose you are weak in Northeastern related affairs, so you can choose Yojana of that month which contains theme of Northeast, and you can read that. So uh, 1 or 2 or 3 magazine you can do, but that depends on time. Do you have enough extra time or not? They are not required per se.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I'm Tony from Kerala.
Okay.
Sir,
Yes, Rohini, please tell.
hello, sir. Yeah, sir. My doubt is that I'm from a non-maths background and I did my
Okay.
commerce. So, how well should I perform on my well performance on my CSAT paper? As a beginner, what should I do from the starting itself, sir?
What was your subject of graduation?
Sir, I did my commerce and corporate secretaryship.
Commerce.
Yes, sir.
So I think for commerce background, CSET should not be huge issue. You are facing issue in mathematics related part or comprehension related part in CSET? See, CSET has 2 parts. Actually, CSET paper has 2 parts. One is mathematics related part. Second is logical reasoning, and third is comprehension. In comprehension, they are giving you one passage, and accordingly, 4 options are there, and what best inference do you make from that passage? So, are you comfortable in this comprehension related part, or
Yes,
are you
sir,
facing
I'm
problem in?
comfortable. Yes, sir. Comprehension related part is better for me, but as being from non-maths background, this reasoning and things like that are very difficult for me, sir.
Okay, fine. In that case, also CSET is just qualifying. You need to get 70 marks. Means theoretically you need to get 66.66 marks, but on a safer side, you must be getting 70 plus marks in CSET. So
Yes,
it's just fine. Just take a good book related to logical reasoning and comprehension. Take just a small book where all the concepts are explained. Don't take very big book. Like a site is there, India Bix also, where these comprehension or mathematics related questions are given, and even for every topic 1-page explanation is also given, so you can refer to that also. Don't give much time in that, and try to solve 3 or 4 previous year questions. If you are getting consistently 70-80 marks in previous year papers, then it's fine.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hi, sir. I'm Priyanka here.
Hi, Priyanka.
So, sir, I had a doubt regarding how should we prepare, because while we are making notes, we're also thinking about answers that we're going to write. So, should we write the answers in points or should it be in paragraphs?
Okay. See, this is a very good question. Like, should we write answers in points or in paragraph? And see, it depends on question to question sometimes. certain question requires answers in point format, certain question require answer in paragraph format. Certain questions are there where we cannot write in points at all. Then second is where you are more comfortable. If you have very good English, if you are very well comfortable with the English language, then you can very well write in paragraph format. But sometimes it happens, especially for engineering background students, that they are not well versed with humanities related subjects. They are not comfortable with subjective answer writing. So in that case, you can go for point format. Further, in a particular question, you can go with both point as well as paragraph format. Okay, so suppose they have asked advantage and disadvantage of a particular scheme or policy, then in that particular question, you can make it in 4 paragraphs. In first paragraph, along with introduction, you can explain that scheme. That can be in paragraph format. In second paragraph, you can list certain 4 to 5 advantages. It can be in a point format. In third paragraph, you can list 4 or 5 disadvantages in point format. And in fourth paragraph, you can write conclusion and some benefits from that, and that may be in a paragraph format. So you can write an integrated answer in paragraph and point form. You can write totally in point format. You can write totally in paragraph format. That can vary. And also, if you are more comfortable in point format, go with the point format. If you are more comfortable in paragraph format, go with paragraph format.
Okay. So I think questions are over now. If you have any question, you can ask. Last question we can take.
Sir, I have one more question, Priyanka.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So, sir, I am a law student and I'm right now in my final year. So, I am pretty much thinking of picking law as my option. I just want to know, are there enough test series available at least to understand what the questions are going to be and how I should frame the answers?
In law optional.
Right.
Okay, so see, I don't have much knowledge about this, that whether there are enough material or test series available for law optional. You can consult with any of the aspirants who have taken law as an optional. You can even consult this Sankalp, and they can connect you with one person who has taken law as an optional, so he can guide you on that part, that whether proper material is available on this particular optional or not.
All right, thank you.
I'll add here, for the law optional, ample of the material is available in the market. Also the test series are available, so don't worry about the law. Is one of the good option. You can go for the law option, no issue.
All right, thank you.
Hello, sir.
Oh, yes.
Hello, sir. I'm Gopika from Kerala. Is it possible offline classes in Kerala get?
Okay. Yeah. See, I'm going to talk about this subject after this lecture. We'll talk. Okay, you'll wait for the 5 minutes. The student who are from the Kerala, we are going to discuss all the points related to your coaching and everything. Let me finish this first lecture. Thank you, Mayank. You came here. Yeah, you came here. You discuss in detail about the strategy. It's very important for any of the aspirant who start preparing for the UPSC examination. So everyone knows the UPSC syllabus is like ocean. So the good strategy, proper which book you should choose or which you should not choose. That is very important part of this examination. I think all the students are the new student and they get the boost because whenever they saw the toppers, and specifically 29th rank is one of the best rank in the UPSC examination, and now you discuss your strategy thoroughly with the student. I think student will definitely take the benefit of it and they will start the preparing for this examination. Okay. Thank you. Thank you
very much, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.